Chiak Ryujum was a brave warrior. He literally slayed 300 assassins alone while cornered at the edge of cliff. The guy wreaked havoc for 4 straight days. He continuously piled up the dead bodies of anyone who dared to come closer to his mistress, whom he had been protecting with his life. Eventually, after clearing wave after wave of assassins, Ryujum faced the final boss and was bested. But instead of dying alone, he dragged his final enemy along with him, jumping off the cliff. The two fighters exchanged final words before falling into the icy, cold waters below. 900 years have passed since then, and the world has made a huge leap in technological advancements. Welcome to the 21st century. On a bridge over a river, there's a schoolgirl standing at the edge with nothing to support her weight. She could fall any moment if she loses her balance, and people behind her assume she's trying to kill herself. But contrary to what they think, she's just standing there for the heck of it. Then, she notices something eye-catching. Below the bridge, a giant iceberg pops up out of nowhere. What makes it shocking is that the iceberg contains the preserved body of the ancient hero who fell off the cliff while carrying out his duty. When the authorities hear about it, Ryujum is brought to a facility where they make sure he's strapped down tightly to prevent any movement. Everyone's curious to learn which era this handsome fellow belongs to. One guess is that he might be from the Goryeo dynasty. Zhang Sang-yang, the director of the Secret Intelligence DLS research who works directly under the president, oversees the case. Seeing the perfectly preserved body, he's sure that this ancient person can help humanity take a leap into preserving bodies through cryogenic methods. The assistant of Sang-yang isn't sure if restraining the guy this much is actually necessary. He fears that once this ancient dude wakes up, he won't appreciate being restrained. But the director isn't taking any chances. After all, this man's body can't be compared to that of modern humans. It's so different he can hardly be classified as the same species. Plus, every analysis so far has subverted their expectations, and Sang-yang is pretty darn sure there are more surprises to come. The assistant, however, doesn't mean to seem complacent. What he's trying to say is that this guy, a gift sent by their ancestors to future generations, shouldn't be treated so harshly. Still, Sang-yang isn't ready to let him go unless they're 100% sure he's not some kind of disaster waiting to happen. Of course, the assistant finds Sang-yang's concerns laughable. But it seems like this idiot's about to learn the hard way that you should never ignore the advice of your seniors. That ancient guy literally tears through all the restraints, like they're nothing more than toilet paper. Before we witness the disaster, let's take a look at the bustling city. On the road, there's a jerk and his gold digger girlfriend cruising in a sports car. This dude is speeding down the highway like he owns the road. But soon enough, this poor guy is overtaken by a mere ancient man who's just woken from a long slumber. The guy is literally running at 80 kilometers per hour. He's making that red Lamborghini look like a donkey cart with his insane speed. Not only can he outrun sports cars, but he can also make sharp turns without slowing down, causing massive crashes among the traffic. All the Gen Z guys pull out their cameras and start recording this unprecedented scene they're witnessing. Now, let's see things from Ryujum's perspective. He's having a hard time believing what he's seeing. He's running around in a place he's never been before. It's so bizarre and surreal that he's sure this can't be a dream. The last thing he remembers is trying to protect his mistress from those assassins. Suddenly, he comes across police cars blocking his path, finally bringing him to a halt. The police officers immediately try to take control of the situation under orders from higher-ups. They surround Ryujum, who's standing still, unusually lost in his thoughts. He clearly remembers falling into the waterfall with his arch-nemesis, Ok-yun. Then, an officer sneaks up on him, insisting that he doesn't resist arrest, especially since doing so will only make things harder for him. But Ryujum's mind is too occupied to pay attention to the officer's words. As far as he remembers, he died back then. But if he isn't dead and seeing all this chaos around him, the only thing that crosses his mind is that he's probably under the influence of an illusion cast by Ok-yun's follower, Yun Un-hai, who specializes in messing with people's minds. With that in mind, he brushes the officers off with his bare hands, sending them flying. He desperately wants to wake up from this illusion. One of the officers shoots a taser at him, but Ryujum just grabs the electrical needles with his bare fingers. Well, the concept of lightning isn't new to him. As he's distracted, he gets hit with a barrage of needles, causing his muscles to react to the electricity instinctively. The officers think they've overwhelmed this ancient person with their tasers. Little do they know, Ryujum simply grabs the wires, jerks them so hard that the officers lose their grips on the taser guns. Then he swings the guns back at the soldiers, sending them scattering like bowling pins. The general public is in utter awe. After all, seeing the police getting there but's handed to them by a guy who isn't even moving from his spot is absolutely insane. Chiak Ryujum is toying with these guys like they're nothing more than trash bags. His main goal is to find a key in this world. The key will help him break the illusion he's currently trapped in. More and more police arrive, but Ryujum is so powerful that he crushes the ground beneath him with sheer force. This sends all the cars flying. All these guys are nothing more than an annoyance to him. So, to avoid the trouble, he simply leaps high into the air like Hulk and jumps away. This display of immense strength leaves the soldiers wondering if this guy is even human. We then cut to Jongmin Woo, the service director of the National Intelligence. He's on the phone, fuming at the lack of results from his personnel. By now, he's sure that the special forces won't be able to do anything in this case, let alone the police officers. The guy on the other end of the phone is Jong Sang-yong, the team leader of this operation. We saw him at the facility before, after witnessing how this ancient dude broke through the restraints and wreaked havoc. He agrees with the director. Suddenly, the director calms down when his senior, sitting in the back seat, takes full responsibility for everything happening. He admits that it's his fault. He's confident there's nothing to worry about. After all, they're dealing with an ancient dude who's supposedly powerless against modern weaponry. As he says this, the main highway is packed with military vehicles. Tanks, military Hummers, even helicopters filling the sky. Seriously, with all this military power, they're treating our guy like a Godzilla-level threat. Anyway, Chiak Ryujum stands at the top of a building, completely surrounded. Even the rooftop is swarming with armed police forces. Now that these guys are challenging him, he's ready to show them what he is made of. But before initiating the fight, he grabs a broomstick as his weapon of choice. Yeah, he's made up his mind. He's going to give these guys a run for their money with nothing but a broomstick. One of the soldiers shoots a bullet right near his feet, thinking it'll intimidate him. This officer is sure that an ancient martial artist like him won't be able to go up against a gun. But it looks like Chiak Ryujum is about to prove him utterly wrong. Before the showdown can start, and we witness the chaos that follows, the president himself decides to show up and meet the guy. Once the president steps onto the roof, his concerned security detail warns him to keep his distance. As the representative of the country, Kang Jikan has personally come to meet this relic of the past. He tells the officers to lower their guns. Of course, being the ancient guy he is, Chiak Ryujum catches on that the president likely has the standing of a king. First, Jikan expresses his apologies from the bottom of his heart for how they've treated their guest from the past. Since Chiak Ryujum isn't aware of his surroundings, the president briefs him. He explains that this current time is the future and the place is South Korea. But before going any further, the president extends his hand for a handshake. He wants to escort Chiak Ryujum to a better place before they talk more. As the president holds out his hand, Chiak Ryujum just stands there, unmoving. Every officer watches carefully, trying to predict his next move. But Chiak Ryujum subverts everyone's expectations when he swings his stick, aiming to slice the president's head off. As far as the ancient guy is concerned, the president might be the key to breaking out of this illusion. The officers immediately go bonkers, locking their aim on his head. Miraculously, the president is still alive and orders everyone to cease fire. Meanwhile, Chiak Ryujum is convinced that it's not Yun Unhai's doing. You see, she was the greatest illusionist in Goryeo, so there's no way she'd create an illusion where his enemy doesn't suffer. Reflecting on those fights, Chiak Ryujum knows that what he felt during his encounters with the officers didn't seem like an illusion. So, with everything in mind, the only conclusion he can draw is that this place is real. The scene cuts to the president's safe house, where a lavish spread of food is served to Chiak Ryujum. But before indulging in meaningless pleasures, Bro wants to confirm where he is. The president claims it's a secret base, a designated place for meetings like this. He insists his ancient guest indulge himself, as all the food has been prepared according to the current era's traditions and tastes. Since Chiak Ryujum isn't taking the initiative to dig in first, the president takes it upon himself and takes the first bite. While eating, he asks if Chiak Ryujum still has any doubts that he isn't in the future. Of course, Chiak Ryujum is smart enough to figure that out. By now, he is pretty darn sure that he is indeed in the future. The president is glad to hear that he understands. Now, it shouldn't be hard for him to understand that the reason he's able to move after being frozen for so long is due to modern medical technology, something that wasn't possible back in his time. Chiak Ryujum recalls the time before he died. The poison in his body was already spreading, and he was further pierced by his arch-nemesis. Since he's the only one left here, it means all his enemies have already fallen. The president continues his rant. While he's not sure if Chiak Ryujum will be willing to accept the terms, the president wants to be generous enough to offer him support to help him adapt to this place. But in return, he wants Chiak Ryujum's cooperation. It's nothing too demanding, just a simple request. To clarify, the president gestures to the director of national intelligence. The guys quickly turn on TV. A news reporter reports the sighting of the super strong guy. Not only is he matching the speed of cars, but he was even seen flying around. The common people have already started to connect the dots, suspecting the guy they saw flying around in the city is the same person who was found in the Han River Glacier. There are rumors spreading that the person causing chaos in the city is this same individual, and people are even calling him a superhuman. Then, the reporter announces the latest news. It was all part of a movie production, and the movie director wanted the highest realism possible. Basically, the government has staged the entire news report to convince the public that the bizarre sightings were just a performance. They can't afford to let the truth get out. People aren't ready to know about a being like Chiak Ryujum. After all, he's a frozen person capable of surviving through centuries. If they experiment and study this situation, the president believes it could lead to incredible advancements. Many countries have tried to achieve this before, but so far, they've only failed because they lack the crucial thawing technology. But now, Chiak Ryujum has appeared as their hope. So, the president asks Chiak Ryujum to cooperate with them for the sake of the country and future generations. But Chiak Ryujum flatly says no, without a hint of hesitation. Of course, the president is left speechless, while Chiak Ryujum proceeds toward the exit. As far as Chiak Ryujum is concerned, it's bold of the president to assume he has any intention of living in this era. Since words aren't enough to convince this ancient warrior, the president decides to go with Plan B. The officers quickly line up their needle guns, aiming at Chiak Ryujum, and begin bombarding him with darts. The darts strike his back precisely, but he doesn't even twitch a muscle. While Chiak Ryujum may have stopped taser guns before, the director is sure this guy can't withstand tranquilizers strong enough to knock out an elephant. While the director may be right, Chiak Ryujum doesn't even let the darts pierce his skin. A thick layer of aura surrounds his body, preventing the needles from touching him. His inner aura accumulates in his hands, and in an instant he sends the officers flying in all directions, as if they were nothing more than lightweight dolls. This little display of power serves as a reminder to this persistent president not to pull this stunt again. Despite this, the president still isn't willing to let Chiak Ryujum walk away that easily. Next up, a group of officers enter, armed with electrical batons, surrounding Chiak Ryujum. Without hesitation, they charge at him. But Chiak Ryujum moves so fast that the officer attacking him misses completely. The other officers close in, but one guy thinks he's finally got Chiak Ryujum, zapping him with his baton. But before the baton can electrify him, Chiak Ryujum vanishes in a blur, just like an afterimage. He's moving so fast that he's leaving a trail of silhouettes behind him. At one point, the foolish officers realize they're no match for this guy. He didn't even attack, despite being up against armed opponents. The only thing his opponents can do is watch as he walks away unscathed. The president, after receiving the news of their failure, is having a hard time believing they lost to a single man. By now, he's sure they can't capture him by force. So, the only option left is to find alternative methods. After all, Chiak Ryujum is no ordinary being, and a large-scale search will likely be necessary. Suddenly, a man rushes in to report urgent news. We found the location of the guy we've been looking for. While they're not sure the reason, he's at a very easy-to-spot place, standing on a rooftop of the tallest building. It looks like Chiak Ryujum is about to jump off this high-rise to claim his own life. You see, this world offers nothing to him. His life is meaningless, as he has no purpose to stay alive. The only reason he lived was to protect his mistress from enemies. But now that there's no mistress to protect and no enemies to fight, there's no reason for him to exist. He wishes he had died when he fell off the cliff all those years ago. As he begins to descend, something catches his eye. A face on a billboard grabs his attention instantly. It turns out the face on the billboard looks exactly like Ok-Yun, his final enemy, someone he was supposed to take down. His eyes widened in shock as his memory flashed back to the time he faced off against Ok-Yun, a villain who placed his family members in an illusion to kill each other off brutally before his eyes. Banhai and Ok-Yun worked together to fully commence the era of destruction upon Goryeo. As everything went up in flames, the bodyguard boasted a determined glare against his nemesis, Ok-Yun, who enjoyed torturing the swordsman and promised that he would flatten the world. Ok-Yun is single-handedly responsible for everything. Even though our boy was confident that he'd killed the guy in their final battle, it turns out the bastard is still alive in the future. This changes Ryujin's perspective on things. The existence of his enemy, in return, gives his life a meaning, a purpose. Extending his hands, pointed towards the ground, the man exerts so much pressure that he breaks the fall and plants his feet on the surface. There's a lot he didn't know about, and he was determined to find out. The scene cuts to President Jakan. He's losing his mind after hearing that our guy jumped from the tallest building he could find. But the fact that his body is nowhere to be found is even more frightening than the first news he received. Luckily, they ran into a witness who ran into the guy, and, according to his testimony, he simply asked about Yen Wu's information. In this world, Yu Yun Wu is an important figure. He is the pride of Korea, a world-class movie star, renowned all over the world for his prodigious talent from a young age. He's got good eyes on him from other continents of the world, and with the looks of a model, he's got irresistible charm in his personality. Thanks to his existence alone, his company's stock value is on a rise. And because he's the most famous star of Korea, he's raised the country's status in global standings. In other words, the dude was the definition of a great man, which is unbecoming of the description that Ryujin was waiting to hear. It's as if he feels out of place even more now that Ok-Yun's identity appears to be the opposite of the man he is supposed to be. Given the information, Ryujin suspects that there are two possibilities. Number one, this model either resembles Ok-Yun, and number two, the guy is actually him while gaslighting the entire world. And for some interesting reason, Ryujin is desperately hoping that it's the second possibility. Feeling the urge to meet him, he requests the kid to take him to Yen Wu, which is obviously an insane request to a normal kid who obviously can't contact a celebrity like that. Even the kid is out here thinking if he's found some kind of dumbass for asking that question. To the kid's horror, however, Ryujin is not in the mood to fudge around. The dude exerts so much pressure that it shatters the glass of every screen. Ryujin demands an answer from the kid, desiring a way to find Yen Wu. The kid thinks he's about to get killed if he doesn't give him an answer. So, he finally confesses hearing the model travel overseas a few years ago. Ryujin realizes that this means his target has already crossed to a different country. Let's pay a visit to the land of freedom, America. Here, the model is having a nice lunch when suddenly he gets whacked in the damn face by Buff Kanye West over here, speaking gibberish in English. The American man demands he leave the place. Turns out that this is supposed to be just a movie scene that they're directing, so it's all chill. The director is a bit annoyed that Yen Wu hasn't been in his element lately, and it's taking him longer to adapt to scenes. To make up for it, the confident model, with his already swollen face, requests the American to hit him on the other side too. The scene is scheduled to be redone when, suddenly, the chandelier unexpectedly breaks and topples down. Buff Kanye won't be able to release another album if it hits him, but luckily, the Korean model swoops in to save his life in a critical moment. The staff immediately rushed in to check on their condition. They weren't expecting something like this to happen. Thankfully, they're both safe and no one got hurt. Well, except for Yen Wu, who injured his arm for the most part. At the hospital, they're shocked to find that Yen Wu wrecked his body just to save the other guy. Also, for his courageous act, he received a ton of gifts from everyone to speed up his recovery. Yen Wu thinks it's a good idea to share these gifts with the generous hospital staff members instead. He also apologizes for messing up the film schedule thanks to his condition just now, but they're just happy he didn't get injured too much. Also, it comes to Yen Wu's attention that filming isn't an important thing right now, especially when he hears shocking news. Back at the Blue House, President Jakan bids farewell to everyone, only to find our boy waiting for him. Having bypassed top-tier security levels with ease, Jakan recalls being terrified yesterday, as only 9 hours ago, our boy showed up to his office like Batman. He came to accept the offer of cooperation that he rejected earlier. Only this time, he's got one condition paired alongside it, handing him a photo of Yenwu. He requests the president to help him find someone reliable who can easily meet him in the same room as Yenwu. Jakan is ready for anything, as long as he promises full cooperation in return. Ryujin observes that the gesture of shaking hands out of trust didn't exist back in his era, but he shakes his hand anyway. Back to the present, Jakan learns that Ryujin urgently wants to see Yenwu, but it won't be easy since they're so far away from him. The scene cuts to the part where they actually reach Yenwu's place of stay. The model is shocked to meet the president and the person he's brought alongside him. Yenwu introduces himself, kind and polite, while Ryujin is on high guard, because it's time to see whether this guy is truly Okayun or not. Jakan learns that the model sprained his arm recently from an injury. Ryujin is way more willing to meet him and extends a hand. The celebrity is initially shocked to find the same guy from the news up here in front of his eyes. They shake hands properly, while Jakan suggests they sit somewhere comfortable. But that's not the important part. The important part is that our boy is practically crushing Yenwu's hand with his insanely strong grip. But, to his utter shock, this guy isn't even leaking a trace of chi from his body, appearing like an ordinary human. Disappointed, Ryujin apologizes for his intrusion. Jakan tells the two to get comfortable while he goes away to tend to the bathroom. Though he's going away as an excuse, he's already set his men on standby in case something bad happens. The room is cleared until only the two men remain, sharing a table across from each other. Though he's enjoying his tea, Ryujin is severely depressed, realizing that this guy only resembles Okayun's facial features. In the end, it seems like he's alone in this world, until Yenwu announces Ryujin's name, getting up close to whisper his shock of seeing him alive. To Yenwu's surprise, the bodyguard, who he presumed to be dead, turned out to be alive. Ryujin is so ready to fight at this point that he unleashes a violent aura to warn Yenwu, questioning if this was all a game to the jerk. In the end, Yenwu is just a false identity for the man underneath. It's always been Okayun, which leads to only one explanation, and it's that Okayun must have obtained some kind of skill allowing him to mask his Kai levels in the open. Ryujin's concerned just how early this guy returned to the future before him. Okayun tells him right away that killing him here would be meaningless, so he shouldn't release his murderous intent out in the open. He judges that Ryujin is only just adapting to this world, while Okayun is already a part of it and is blended with it. Ryujin asks him direct questions about how he came to the future, but the clever Okayun maintains his secrets. Getting to his one and only concern, Ryujin questions the one person he truly cares about. He wants to know if the girl he was assigned to guard also came to the future like them. But Okayun's in the mood to mess around with our boy's feelings, so he gives him a half-assed answer like it's supposed to be a riddle. Done with his crap, our boy literally exerts so much pressure against the table that it knocks Okayun and his seat all the way back into the wall. From the looks of it, Okayun's unwilling to cooperate. So, Ryujin has decided he'll find his answers on his own. He stares down at Okayun, who is emerging from the rubble, reminiscing and questioning if this was the reality they once shared another life in. However, Okayun's grown really confident from that last attack from his opponent. It's as if he can sense that Ryujin hasn't yet fully regained his strength before their little dance begins. Okayun stops him to alert Ryujin about the special barrier of illusion he's placed. With this in place, the rest of the world won't see them recklessly fighting each other. Instead, it will appear as if they were catching up like old friends. It's funny, but bro really cares about his reputation to keep that up even as a villain. Okayun dashes right in, but our boy immediately points out something shocking. He wasn't facing Okayun at all. Ryujin crushes a pine cone in his hand and states that he's going to find out the truth for himself. He remarks that despite having hidden his ki in his normal state, this guy actually leaked some of his ki while defending himself, which revealed to Ryujin that he wasn't Okayun at all. The woman harboring the disguise of Yenwu suddenly reverts back to her original state, clearly impressed that he was able to piece together the truth with one encounter. Do you guys recall Yun Unhai, the chick that was nearly responsible for making our boy and the president's life earlier? Yeah, meet Itachi's sister over here. The perspective goes back to the final day of the rebellion, where he clearly recalls Unhai falling to her death after being sliced open. He was confident that it was all over for her. So this is just strange. Unhai laughs at his confusion and reveals that the real Okayun is actually quite an important figure in this world. She was taking on his identity as Yenwoo because her boss is busy managing other meetings for his plans. And in today's report, she's more than happy to tell Oki-yun of Ryujim's return. Also, gauging his powers from earlier, she thinks she can easily beat Ryujim here, which is why Itachi's sister goes for Shadow Clone Jutsu to gang up on our boy. But she forgot who she was dealing with because he easily takes down one of the clones with ease. He's done hearing her run her mouth. Bro basically told her to shut the fudge up. Of course, since Ryujim has been expelling so much ki from his body, having only recently awakened it, it's going to take a toll on him. And that assumption alone became Unhai's greatest failure, because our boy reminded her that he was built differently. With a single attack, he took care of all of her clones. She was on the ground, helpless to face him. Ryujim clearly remembers slaying the psycho that day. She fell off a cliff with an injury that shouldn't be easy to heal, so it's hard to believe she got this far. Unhai reveals that she, too, believed that she would die that same day. But upon opening her eyes, reality became different for her. She was in the future, looking clueless in front of a man wearing a nice suit with ashy hair. He was Oki-yun, and he was already helping her adjust in this new world. This means that Oki-yun was the first to wake up among them. And since he is her superior, Unhai doesn't want to give up until the end. She nearly catches Ryujim's eye with her sharp stab, but our boy counters her just in time, pushing her away with a heavy blow. Unhai is practically unable to continue the fight. Ryujim walks to her, reminding her of how pitiful she looks. She says that Oki-yun actually saved her life, even though Unhai had only been here for a month. But that's not what Ryujim is concerned about. He wants to know when her body initiated the process of decaying. She doesn't know where he's going with this. So, he rips her shirt off, revealing rotted flesh underneath. Ryujim adds that Oki-yun never actually saved her at all. He merely used a spell to keep her alive for a while, until she eventually meets her doom after being no longer of use. Unhai goes batshit crazy in response, roaring at him for saying such ridiculous things. Ryujim understands that she's never heard of this technique, but in his eyes, the verdict is clear. She's just a tool in Oki-yun's plans. Also, he entertains her by thinking about why he's making her do all of this trivial work. It's because her worth isn't beyond that in Oki-yun's eyes. Yeah, this is ending up a nightmare for Unhai, who is traumatized to realize she's going to be 6 feet under the ground soon. However, there's a way out, a way that Ryujim only knows. He will have to inject a chi that is different from the chi that is spoiling her body. He shows her how it's done by infusing some of his own chi to revert the infection. This confirms to Unhai that her master was planning to kill her off quietly. Ryujim concludes that either he or Oki-yun can use the infusion technique. So, she's going to have to make a choice, to take a side. Realizing that it's come to this, Unhai remarks that she wants to live and asks for an order from Ryujim. Okay, I definitely thought she would end up dead like how it goes for most stories, but this is a really nice change. Ryujim reveals that her objective is to act like a double agent from now on. In the next scene, Yenwoo comes crashing out of the door, begging to be saved from Ryujim. He alerts the president and urges that they leave immediately, much to their confusion. The president is frightened at the notice of a dangerous person inside the room and wonders what the hell just happened. Going inside, they discover Ryujim, who has completely trashed the entire place. He apologizes for making a mess and offers compensation in whatever way he can. His excuse? It's that he was testing things out. The president isn't worried about that immediately. Instead, he asks if Ryujim is doing okay in his mental state. As for Yenwoo, they're concerned about him too, wondering if he got hurt somewhere. In fact, Unhai is kind of angry. She finds Ryujim appearing so unstable. It's unusual for him to be this way. Bro's acting skills can get him an Oscar, apparently. Anyway, he wants to have a real conversation with Unhai soon. They will discuss their goals regarding Oki-yun. The perspective shifts back to the past. The young swordsman was told of his one and only duty. He was supposed to draw his weapon to protect the important people around him. Bodyguards were meant to protect them with their lives. He was often reminded that his life didn't matter nearly as much as the person he was assigned to protect. At the same time, since bodyguards lived to protect someone else, they were unusually strong-willed and determined to die. Ryujim wakes up in the lab. The researchers are on red alert. They find his condition suddenly appearing more unstable than ever before. He tells them he's okay, but he wants to know how long the research will go on for. The president tells him to take it easy. They can always continue another time. The president is really starting to grow on me because he's giving our boy the respect he deserves instead of treating him like a slave. Ryujin prefers continuing the research another time. He's got to uphold an important promise to someone. Right in the next scene, the model-like Eunhye sees Ryujin. She states that he arrived later than she anticipated. She can tell that someone is following him. But it's okay since it's only one of the president's watchmen. They decide to discuss their plans over food. But Eunhye is a bit shocked that he's so comfortable ordering so many drinks at her expense. Bro tells her to keep quiet because he's the one supposed to carry out the questioning here. And then he starts off by covering Ok-Yun's backstory. Ok-Yun basically outsmarted him in their final encounter. Ok-Yun is a member of the family that he was assigned to protect. It was long believed that Ok-Yun met his death in an incident, but no one could have assumed that he faked his death in order to plan a rebellion. Eunhye shares that he's a man of many secrets. She just followed his orders without question. Since she can't answer that question well, Ryujin asks if there's anyone else from the past that came to the future. To her knowledge, Eunhye, Ok-Yun, and Ryujin are the only ones. Out of her own curiosity, she went neck deep into finding records of anyone else, but ended up finding nothing. Ryujin learns that Ok-Yun is actually overseas at the moment. Eunhye is a bit put off that he's about to go meet him in the condition he's in. The fact of the matter is, Ok-Yun has grown considerably stronger from the past. Our boy seems uninterested in her talking and stops her. But it's actually because he sees something that makes his eyes widen in shock. The real Yin Wu, or should I say, the real Ok-Yun, is staring at the two of them from outside the restaurant. A smile forms on his face. Ok-Yun realizes that the world has gotten more interesting from this. Ryujin gets up, calling their meeting pointless and pathetic. He wants to add more conditions to her role. Now that he's seen the guy in person, something important has reawakened inside Ryujin. He had been so blinded by his feelings of revenge that he completely ignored the one thing that mattered to him the most. Ryujin tells her that he strongly believes in the girl's survival, the one he was assigned to protect. Even though this is quite a ridiculous statement from Eunhye's point of view, who already looked for documents, Rug's master's words ring loud and clear inside his mind. His one and only duty is to protect the one that was assigned to him. Following that strict rule, he's going to locate his lady first. Eunhye reminds him that it won't be easy to look for her, as she doesn't even remember her face. But our boy is either a genius or a machine with the way he picks up a pencil and starts sketching her face out to its finest details. Having served her for life, this should be easy for him. Until this goofball reveals the drawing and plot twist, it isn't a masterpiece at all. The scene cuts to Choi's son. Her friend is a bit annoyed that she left without her. Also, she's the same girl from the beginning of the story who wanted to end her life. Aside from that, Sun's background is that she's popular in her school, a model with a fan club full of weirdos and nerds who think they're going to win her over. Because of those creeps, Sun's friend is a bit worried about her. Her friend is also jealous of Sun's attention in their school. While they're casually talking, Ryujin and Eunhye spot the two young girls from a distance. Eunhye is amazed by the smartphone technology, remarking how it's an incredible sea of information. What a great time to be alive. Back to the story, Ryujin is really glad they're making progress, having initially assumed it would take him up to a year to get to this point. He tells Eunhye to be quiet because they're here to observe her, when suddenly, a bunch of creeps surround the two young girls. These fans are trying to get Sun's attention, even demanding a hug from her out of their obsession. With the way they're approaching the two girls, Sun's face is struck with horror as the two scumbags act like she owes them a favor for being her fans. Ryujin and Eunhye watch from a distance, realizing they should intervene soon. And now, for lore drop. Dandelion is the first word that comes to Ryujin's mind when describing his lady's innocence. A petite and innocent girl, she wept relentlessly, despite belonging to a rich family. Every time she got sick, her condition was beyond comparison. She was the definition of someone who needed to rely on someone else for a safe existence. Ryujin leaps in right as that ugly King Kong is trying to hug Sun. Eunhye glances at Sun's friend. And in case you guys were somehow thinking that Ryujin's lady was Sun, you are wrong. It's her friend, and she wasn't weak. Not in her past life, and not even now. She was his master. Ryujin walks up to her, and she slowly approaches him. Our boy apologizes for being so late to save her, and even offers her his own jacket to protect her against the cold. With this meeting alone, Ryujin is confident in the person in front of him. But to his utter shock, the girl bolts right in, stinging him with a powerful uppercut in the abdomen. Ryujin clearly wasn't expecting that, and neither was I. This girl's not a damsel in distress. She's a weapon. With a smile on her face, She shares that it's been a while since they last met each other. Turns out, the girl mistook him for being a fan of hers. My dude is devastated, realizing that she doesn't even remember him at all. She doesn't even share the same name as her. The girl doesn't get what the issue is and asks if he's Sun's fan instead. Ryujin appears visibly distraught, realizing that it's not just a matter of memories, but a matter of her demeanor as well. He was speaking to an entirely different person now. The girl lowers her head in embarrassment, realizing that she punched him for no reason. Some dudes from class come out of nowhere to protect Sun and her friend, thinking that our boy was trying to harass them or something. But at this moment, Ryujin doesn't care about anything at all. All he knows is the grim reality that this girl is different from his master. They leave him be and go away with Sun. But the girl appears in a pensive state, seeing the man stand on his own with a sorrowful expression. From this one interaction, she can tell that he's someone who has lived a terrible life. In the next scene, the next morning, Ryujin and his trusty sidekick, Unhai, arrive at the tomb where his lady is supposedly buried. Unhai finds it a bit unremarkable, but thinks it's due to the passage of time. They confirm the information by meeting with the top historian under the president's command. Having confirmed it from multiple sources, they discover that Ruji's lady passed on the day of the rebellion. Her final belongings are kept sacred in the tomb. Unhai appears okay, but Ryujin is extremely distraught. So much so that he punches the ground to vent his frustration. The final scene replays in his mind, over and over again. Okihyun inevitably bested him by separating the bodyguard from his one and only goal. Unfortunately, he broke the rules of his job and failed his ultimate purpose in life. In front of her tomb, he finds himself despairing at the thought of failing her expectations. I genuinely feel bad for him. It's like doing something with such devotion for decades of your life and realizing your efforts didn't matter at all. Now that they confirmed her death, they turned their attention to the child from before, the one who shared a similar face to his master. Back at the school, the girl finds herself surprised that she's the only employee left. Her drunk boss is lazing around. He looks like an even more depressed version of Nanami. Shidok is such a lazy jackass that he wants her to make him a bowl of ramen as part of her job. While the girl is pissed that he's making her do such insulting tasks, when she's supposed to go big and famous one day, Shidok finds her annoying enough to get up and cook for himself. The girl's interview is playing on TV, while Shidok tells her to be more patient for a little while longer. Shidok receives a sudden phone call, only to find himself excited. Ending the call, he shares the good news with Min Deli, telling her that he's finally secured a drama meeting with an amazing production company. Duolu's eyes lit up with happiness, realizing that she's about to approach the opportunity of a lifetime here, since they're invited for the meeting. Duolu decides to go, but she's put off by the meeting location, as it's unsuited for a young girl like her. However, she chalks it off as just a company issue. The interviewees call her over, requesting the girl to take the drink, much to her shock. She reminds them that she's a minor, so that won't be possible. The atmosphere of the place does not feel like an interview at all. It is unprofessional, and these two drunkards are acting like nutcases. They tell her to get comfortable, as this is just an introductory meeting rather than an official one. At first, she thinks it's fine, but the moment one of the creepy bastards messes with her body, she realizes this is the last place on Earth she is supposed to be. A horrifying realization sets in for the young girl, who realizes what kind of direction this is going. She takes control of the situation and gets up, stating that she isn't about that kind of life, even for a price of a building. But that didn't matter anymore, as only moments afterwards, she fell to the ground as a victim to the drug that was mixed in the water. With her body immobilized on the ground, she realizes they fooled her by spiking the water too. As for Shidok, he's been so depressed that he became desperate. They think he's probably smiling, reading the script right now. With the girl knocked out, one of the guys suggests that they take advantage of the girl's dreams to better their own goals. Receiving a phone call from their leader, they report that they're making smooth progress so far. Back at President Jakan's place, our boy looks at the clear moon, remarking that he's only got one thing left in his life, and that is vengeance. He fully intends to destroy everything Okihyun has built up in his life, tearing it all down until he makes sure both of them stay dead for good this time. Unhai surprises him with her late-night visit. And also, we come to learn that he's been supplying her with his chi daily. She's come to inform him about some interesting news. Though it's not regarding Okihyun, but the girl who appeared just like his lady, having sparked an interest in Duolu. Unhai began an official investigation, tracing back any links to her. She shockingly reveals that, just like Ryujin's lady, This girl also belongs to the Min family, and that means she's a direct descendant of the person he failed to protect. Having tailed her around for a while, Eunhye learned that she's currently in a bad situation and needs help. Even after what she said, Ryujin doesn't care about a descendant. He goes back inside, showcasing no interest at all, not in someone who wasn't even his own master. Eunhye is a bit annoyed by his reaction, even though she went through the trouble of tracking the girl down meticulously. Upon receiving a sudden phone call, she realizes she must hurry. Inside, she feels as if Ryujin should simply abandon the girl if he finds her boring. Sitting in silence, the depressed man recalls seeing a memory of the one he cherished the most. She gave him many different reactions until the day of the rebellion came. Sensing that his lady would be threatened, he told her to evacuate safely, but she asked him a final favor, requesting that whenever she looked back at him, he should be there to support her. That image, compared to Duolu, cuts inside his mind. Too many thoughts are confusing the young man, who has fully convinced himself that the girl isn't his master. Duolu has nothing to do with him, so why should he care? Also, he thinks that there must be someone out there who is already trying to protect her. Let's go back and visit Nanami again, who has received Biksu as a new hiring recruit to apply for the position of manager. To Biksu's shock, he immediately becomes manager on the first day, without even an interview. After all, this guy doesn't really care about the fact that Biksu is a newbie. With that, he bids the guy farewell, recalling that after Duolu, he's the only employee here. He's got a surprise ready for her, and wonders how the meeting went for her. Receiving a call from his boss, the white-haired dude is pissed as hell. In the few moments he was away to the bathroom, shit went down, and the target escaped. His idiot underling tried touching her body and ended up getting a shit rocked for it. And now, since the victim has escaped, they're going to be under heavy suspicion by the police if the matter is reported. However, the bull cut over here thinks that the girl shouldn't have gone far, considering she is still under the effects of drugs. And their suspicions are correct. Duolu is barely able to walk, assisting herself against the wall to walk. Unfortunately, she lost her phone back in the room. Otherwise, she could have phoned the police. The poor girl can't even perceive the hallway, while the men quickly chase after her to catch her. Begging for her legs to move, she keeps on going, knowing that it's her only chance to get out alive. The moment her hand reaches the door handle, she is flung to the back as the men catch up to her. Bull Cut over here wants to hurt her, but she's already looking depressed. They're a bit shocked by her insane mental fortitude for having endured for this long. No longer caring about what happened, they decide to take her back. Suddenly, the ground starts shaking. Bull Cut can clearly sense it, until the entire building begins to shake. Realizing that it's a strong earthquake, the girl senses an opportunity. The lights are out, and they can't see anything. To her surprise, the door is also open because our boy has already made his way inside. Back at the president's residence, he received a note from Eunhye, still not knowing why he made the effort of coming all the way here to save the girl's life. In reality, he could have always ignored her, so he doesn't know why he's here. Without complicating the answer too much, Ryujin accepts that he wanted to do a good deed. The menacing man demands them to let go of the girl immediately. Terrified, the white-haired dude finds himself in shock, not knowing where this guy came from. Also, the ground is still shaking underneath them, as Ryujin casually flings his body away, knocking it into multiple surfaces before it flops to the ground. Next up is Bull Cut's turn, who is probably about to piss his pants in shock. Ryujin, with a threatening glare, demands that he let go, and unknown to himself, he just doesn't understand why he feels so angry. Bull Cut runs the heck away after seeing another human before his eyes get treated like a damn training dummy. He's so afraid that he runs all the way to his car. He tries driving away, only to be stopped by Ryujin. Ryujin adds that he never told the scumbag to leave. Bull Cut drags himself out of the car. Ryujin questions what they did to the girl to make her unconscious. He wonders if he should kill him if he's not getting any answers. He asks one final time as he shoves the car away with sheer aura. He questions if they poison her, and if so, Ryujin wants an immediate antidote. Bull Cut tries to explain that the girl is simply drugged and will wake up soon. But this man isn't looking for cheap answers, as he makes a sandwich out of the dude's hand. Ryujin gives him a bone-chilling warning, threatening to break his neck if he finds out that he's lying. Bull Cut doesn't even know what's going on as numerous men, suited up like government agents, come to defuse the situation. Turns out it's a security team, and they tell the kid to run away. Ryujin tends to the girl's condition, But the emergency team's leader has a different plan in mind and wants to assume custody over the child. They don't even introduce themselves to Ryujin and simply order him to hand over the girl, or else they'll use force. But our boy is ready to throw hands, imploring them to go ahead and try. Recalling their first interaction and how he helped her just now, Ryujin believes that he should be the one to take responsibility over her. He tells them that he's the child's manager, even if only for a day. The bowl-cut kid is talking to his boss and learns that he's the one who sent the bodyguards over to take control of the situation in an emergency. But when the kid reports that they weren't expecting to run into Dulu's manager, his boss is surprised. Focusing on Ryujin and the bodyguards, they demand immediate verification to prove his connection to the child. Countering their demand for authentication, Ryujin asks the security members to prove a way of trust for him to hand over Dulu safely. Internalizing his thoughts, he doesn't trust these guys at all, believing that they have suspicious intentions. One of the security dudes tries to attack him, but bro eats a kick in the gut and then gets pushed off with a palm strike. With his body on the ground, Ryujin wonders if he went too far. The leader of the team is done acting nicely and signals his team to jump our boy. But this isn't about to be Jujutsu Kaisen, because Ryujin casually beats the ever-living crap out of them with a variety of different strikes until he's the victor. As he's going away from the remaining team, Ryujin senses a feeling that he wasn't ready for. The leader of the security team steps in to take the fight. And finally, the girl wakes up at last. She has no memory of the security team members. So, he tells her to close her eyes for a second. Then, he charges up a powerful attack. Within a flash, the team is flipped over, knocked out like bowling pins by Ryujin's explosive launch. The girl is too stunned to speak. Her only reaction is the factual admittance that he's an unbelievably strong human. In the next scene, she's safely returned to her boss. He comes to realize that he made a major mistake by sending the girl alone without anyone to care for her. He didn't know this would happen and was fooled by the company just because it shared a big name. Even though she appears to be fine, it's clear that this situation has clearly affected the girl. Though he assumed it was a good opportunity at first, it could have ended really badly for Dulu. Pissed as hell, her boss is in the mood to kill the crap out of the ones who hurt his employee. But his very own employee points out his ridiculous approach. He couldn't just fight against a giant company. And though she wants to expose the bastards for what they did, it's simply unrealistic, as they're weak. In this circumstance, no matter how much they raise their voice, they would lose. That's why she didn't want her boss to go on and start a meaningless fight. Instead, she's more than happy to pay them back later in the long run. Instead, she thinks it's more important to thank a certain someone for helping them out. Dragging his ass out to the disinterested Ryujin, she lets the boss take the conversation. Though he wants to compensate our boy, Reem really doesn't care about anything other than sweet drinks. The girl has become an immediate fan of this guy for being really good at fighting. She thinks assigning him to the manager's position would be excellent, especially since they've run into each other before. She wonders if the girl he mistook her for is also as pretty as her. Apart from that, the boss is out here interviewing the man and learns that he's practically jobless right now. Meanwhile, Dulu is shocked by what he's doing because in the boss's point of view, both of them look perfect together. So, he straight up offers him a job to work as the manager. And well, back in class, Dulu gets praise from Sun for having boarded a big production company, not knowing the kind of shit show that went down the other night. Dulu speaks about the details and explains that it didn't work out. Feeling dizzy, she draws away and nervously asks for a favor, to give her some trade secrets. This kind of private request is Sun a bit on the fence, but thanks to her overly nice personality, she accepts wholeheartedly. She's ready to answer any questions when a group of delinquent girls comes around, pushing them out of the way. This is the OG Niel gang, but thanks to Sun's personal managers, they're scared off from engaging in anything serious. Sun believes that getting a manager is crucial for situations like these. Choosing someone reliable is more important than choosing someone strong, as that person should be dependable. The word dependable reminds her of the man she recently became acquainted with. Ryujin is observing the cityscape at night when Unhai arrives to serve him. He is a bit too harsh on her because he points her out for being late every time. Also, since she's late often, he wonders what kind of personal schedule she has. Unhai refuses to talk about that and questions why he called her. He just wants to know about the celebrity manager role, something not even this chick knows. Receiving a sharp glare from him, she explains that a typical role of a manager involves checking on the celebrity's condition and taking care of negotiations in their stead. Basically, a caretaker who always looks after them. Now that she's spilled the beans, she wants to know why he asked. Ryujin explains that he's got himself a new job as the manager of Min Dulu, which comes as a roaring shock to her, especially when this dude was hard on rejecting her the other day. She even curses him for having a change of heart and suspects that this would happen in the end. Apart from that, he got to know about something interesting from Girl. Back to the emergency team, he reports to his leader about the unordinary man and how he became responsible for mission failure. Meanwhile, Ryujin reveals to Unhai how he fought a bunch of guys trying to save her life. But from one glance, he could tell that these guys were different. He struck them with chi, and they were still capable of getting back on their feet. Back to the scene of their naked-ass boss. He chucks a fist so hard that it sends the team's leader into the wall, reminding them that they're also unordinary humans. The fact that they failed this mission is the height of embarrassment. They can't afford to slip up on this mission with how important it is. Ryujin tells Unhai that the people of this world shouldn't be used to the concept of chi. This was the present world, a world without any concept of martial arts chi, but he could feel it from those men. Also, the emergency team's boss is now personally curious and wants to meet this mystery man himself. Unhai's reaction is a wild one after hearing that from him. She wants to know if he's telling the truth or not. While Ryujin doesn't get why she's so upset about this, he wonders if there's something she knows that he doesn't. Unhai's eyes widened in horror, recalling how Okiyun told her that internal chi no longer existed. So this means it's impossible. But this only adds even more proof of Okiyun using her like a tool. Remembering her meeting with the Okiyun of the present, she learned that the world changed considerably over the 8 centuries they weren't around. The average human body lost one of its core functions. This had now become a world where, instead of martial arts development, technology was advanced. He even admired the power of science, as having lived for only a brief period. He understood that chi was no longer required in such a world. But then, that adds to the mystery of why Unhai was kept alive for so long. Ryujin goes on to add that he didn't experience simple chi. So, his observation is a bit short-sighted at the moment. That's why he wants to investigate those guys first. He literally drops off a building in front of her, makes a superhero landing, and then walks his way to uncover the truth in the shadows that is being kept away from him. The following day, we get to see Korea's top school, which is lined with the most exotic cars around. Yeongjun High School is one where the government is personally investing, and it resembles a university with the various courses and activities it offers. And it just so happens that Dulu attends this school. The school is stuck-ups and trust fund babies, like the 3 delinquent girls. Unfortunately, unlike the rest of the students, she was someone who merely got in because of luck. She gets bullied for merely existing, and because of her background, they treat her like trash, even trying to pin Sun against an eyesore like her. Dulu snaps back at Sojong, and though she wanted to hit the girl with all her might, she only got even more harassed and provoked by the boys in her class. The entire class is hostile towards her, but she can't do anything to prevent her fate. Apart from that, the students are curious about the transfer student who's going to be joining them today. The teacher comes around and tells them to take their seats. The kids are fully expecting a new girl, knowing their teacher's high standards. But to everyone's astonishment, most importantly Dulu's, it's our boy Chiak Ryujin, looking dapper in that uniform. Let's go a few steps back and see his meeting with the president. He made a request to join the school, reasoning that his curiosity about this world makes him want to pursue a path of knowledge. The president then goes on to appoint the director of the National Intelligence Service to take care of this request on his behalf. So long as his age wasn't an issue, he could join. And guess what? Our boy's now a part of class, and he's got all the girls sighing for him. Even the boys are admiring his good looks, believing that he's a future star or an actor. Jin-Il puts them aside and introduces himself, complimenting the guy's physique. Ryujin shares a bone-chilling response. I get the gains by taking heads, or in other words, slashing people. The funniest thing is that the geeky nerd who told him about Yenwu many days ago is also part of this class. And that kid is practically shivering here. Jin-Il laughs in Ryujin's face for acting like some kind of anime character. The wimpy kid is out here quivering, afraid that this guy might go hyper and destroy the whole school. Ryujin funnily glances at him and also sees Dulu gesturing for him to come outside for a talk. So he goes there and gets a hearing from the girl for attending the school. She can't believe he easily made his way in and wants to know more about his identity. However, before coming to this school, Ryujin was strictly prohibited from revealing his identity. My boy was media trained for situations like these before entering the school, so he shares the answer he was told to give, stating that he joined through a special admission. At the same time, he's her manager, which is a similar job to a bodyguard. Knowing that those dangerous men are gunning for her, he wants to be near her and protect the celebrity. However, she's a bit put off and reminds him not to do that kind of stuff during school, as both of them will get in trouble for it. She thinks it's better to act like total strangers in school, and she shies away from reality because she wasn't really a celebrity just yet. The chick is out here getting swooned, but her man is like Batman and vanishes in an instant. Let's cut to a different scene where one of the nerdy kids is getting bullied for his lunch money. You know, the typical bully situation. Anyway, this kid is relentless and doesn't want to hand over the money, so he eats a really painful hook in the gut for disobeying orders, knocking the daylights out of him. Jin-il's tyrannical control over his class causes the rest of them to shiver in fear. Walking his way here, our boy wonders what's going on. The reason he disappeared in an instant was because he felt a trace of chi coming from nearby. Jin-il's got the kid on his knees, collecting the money. The wimpy kid explains that Jin-il has a policy of collecting taxes from everyone. He treats this as his playground and is allowed to do whatever he wants because he's got a strong family background. The easiest way to describe him would be king. And, as you can guess, the word king is quite the trigger for our boy, who is genuinely disgusted at the pathetic weakling of a sight that Jin-il is, despite being the king. But his bold words just now were heard by Jin-il and the rest of his goons. Of course, Ryujin, being the polite gentleman that he is, apologized for upsetting the king. Jin-il thinks he's rising in the class hierarchy. His goon thinks he can handle Ryujin, but Jin-il is angry. He pushes the guy away, showing his jaw and asking for a clean hit. Yeah, famous last words. Ryujin asks if he's ready to die, which seems like an exaggeration, but he means it. Jin-il, angry that he's still showing off, prepares a punch. The wimpy kid can't believe they're fighting already on the first day. Suddenly, the teacher interrupts, ruining Jin-il's fun. He's told to keep these matters outside of school. Jin-il reminds Ryujin that he's going to make his life miserable, an empty threat from a coward. He's acting like he's going to destroy Ryujin. Ryujin looks at him in confusion. Later, during lunch break, Ryujin asks to sit with a group of students, but they all leave the table, afraid of being associated with him because of Jin-il. Since no one wants to sit with him, the wimpy kid asks to share the table instead. They talk and eat together. Ryujin is surprised that everyone's afraid of him. The wimpy kid reveals that he's now marked by Jin-il and his goons. This means his school life will be hard. Jin-il tortures people until they leave school, which is why everyone's ignoring him. The kid also wonders why Ryujin didn't beat up Jin-il, knowing he could have. He adds that he knew Ryujin was strange when they first met. He jokingly asks if he's some kind of superhuman from another time. Surprisingly, the kid's prediction is accurate. The teacher calls the new transfer student, wanting to talk to him. They go to a separate room. The teacher asks trivial questions about the school. Ryujin responds that he doesn't find the teachers helpful or to his liking, since they don't uphold high morals. He knows why the teacher brought him here, so he tells Anhai to drop the act. She returns to her normal face and is shocked to learn about traces of chi from the school. Neither of them can figure out who the chi belongs to. That's why Ryujin intentionally caused a scene, trying to force someone to use chi. It was a good chance, ruined by the teacher. But apart from that, he confirmed something else. Martial chi still exists in this world. Also, Jin-il is currently beating up the wimpy kid. It will only make it more satisfying when our guy beats him black and blue. The kid is told to strip his shirt and strike back. The kid hits softly across his shoulder, looking traumatized as ever. Jin-il points out Juno's terrified face and delivers a crushing swipe, rocking his body. The goons are watching their leader fiddle around with his new pet. They recall seeing Ryujin at the cafeteria, speaking to Juno. That is why he's being punished. With the raid going on, Juno is destined to take off his pants. But then, the glasses boy from before swoops in to stop him. He is the class president, and he has decided to take action. He shared a meeting with Dulu, who was disappointed in him for taking a knee to the bullies. That meeting restored some of his resolve. The only reason the class president stayed silent until now was because he wanted to maintain a peaceful life. But now he is done staying silent. Bro literally goes Superman against Jin-il and is about to destroy him. Then, Ryujin appears out of nowhere to block the attack. With this, he's confirmed something. Ryujin then verbally destroys Jin-il's existence, saying that he is not a king, but a bastard, with the way he is handling things. This provocation causes Jinayel's men to sweep in and attack the transfer student. Recalling his meeting with the president, he was strictly told not to cause any trouble. That was his promise. That is why he doesn't do anything except stand in one place. Recalling his conversation from Juno, he asked the kid why he associated himself with a troublemaker. The kid responded with a timeless proverb: the strong always protect the weak. He always viewed Ryujin as a strong person physically, but in a way, the transfer student was weak when it came to adapting to the school. Okay, the really beautiful part about this is how even the weak-looking kid is strong from the perspective of the school, and he is helping Ryujin, who is having difficulty adapting. Jinayel's underling ended up hurting his own hand after trying to hit our guy. Then, he kissed the floor as our guy flipped him over. Ryujin reflects that his original self is also weak in some ways. The kids are shocked, seeing this dude knock out 2 guys in an instant. Turning his attention to the cowardly Jinayel, he questions if the king is ready to put on his best performance. Tension building up in his body, the psycho Jinayel goes crazy as he swoops in for his punch. The funny thing is that stupid performance didn't matter, because all Ryujin did in response was use a forehead flick to send this dude flying into the next world. Bro is so bored, he doesn't even look at him while doing that, and calls Jinayel pathetic on top of that. A verbal and a physical beatdown in one. Jinayel's forehead has birthed an egg as he rests, defeated on the ground. Ryujin is bored and thinks that Jinayel is clearly unworthy of the title of king. Instead, the class president is more of a worthy contender. Recalling the punch he stopped earlier, Ryujin understands that this guy is trying to restrain his powers to an unfathomable level. Park Min-guk is the target they were looking for, the one leaking traces of martial chi. Lashing out strongly against the new transfer student, Min-guk questions what he's hiding. Neither of the students can interpret their conversations. But from the looks of it, Ryujin has caused trouble. Seeing the mess, Dulu arrives to see Jinayel and his goons down for the count. She doesn't know what's going on and sees the class president having a chat with him. Our boy looks around to meet her gaze and merely walks past. In the next scene, after class, Sun and Dulu discuss how fascinating it is for a guy like him to attend this school. But they're happy that with a guy like him around, their safety is guaranteed. Jinayel now looks like a chump, but this dude is still not done and wants to take control of his world again. Sun remarks that, in some way, Ryujin appears different. It's as if he's got this natural pull of safety, compelling a person to come near. Turns out, this chick has the hots for him and wants to get closer to him, not knowing that Ryujin's actually her manager. Well, since she doesn't have a choice in this situation, our girl confesses the truth, which rocks Sun's world, and she promises to keep her secret. Dulu is glad that she told her this information early on. Also, it's clear that her new manager doesn't have any work experience, and neither does the aspiring celebrity, so it's a match made in heaven. Sun admits that at least Ryujin looks more reliable than any manager she has on her side. As for our boy, he's recalling the discussion he shared with the class president. Min-guk refused to answer any questions until our boy brought up Qigong. Min-guk didn't know what he was talking about at all. This confirmed one thing, and it was that not even Min-guk knew about his strength. He was basically swinging a fist like normal, not knowing he had so much power behind him. Min-guk began getting tensed up from the strange accusations, and that's how their conversation cut off. Ryujin vividly recalls his energy from the punch appearing familiar to him in some ways. Anyway, Ryujin is being disciplined for causing so much trouble on his first day. They want to call his guardian and put him in trouble for it. In response, the fearless student simply calls the instructor a shameful man. Right away, the so-called guardians step foot inside the school. They are revealed to be the director of the National Intelligence Service and his men. Imagine having the director as your representative for the school meeting. He must be feeling unstoppable. Since the school is sponsored by the government, they're pretty disappointed with the way they've handled things here. The director tells Ryujin to leave the rest to him, which only sparks the instructor's curiosity even more. With that, the issue is resolved. In the next scene, we see our favorite baddie again. She brought Ryujin what he asked for, a file of all the records on Min-guk, including every information about him. From her findings, she noticed that he's an ordinary kid. If anything, Min-guk simply has a strong passion for school, or so it appears. Also, the Qigong couldn't have been inherited from his family, since the kid doesn't even have parents, only an older brother. The investigation is tougher than he thought it would be. He wonders if the class president shares a connection to the security team members. This also confirms the extinction of Qigong in this era, although not entirely. Though he's tried searching for good evidence, he doesn't get what they're hiding that's so important. Minguk returns home and finds his brother, who asks if something happened at school. Ignoring him completely, the kid keeps moving forward. Finally, he speaks and tells his brother that he noticed someone at school using a similar power as them. Though the guy is a transfer student, he destroyed the school bullies using the same power. Also, he has knowledge of their power too, even though Minguk pretended not to know. Minguk's brother asks him to describe his appearance. So he vividly describes Ryujim's physicality, boasting long hair and a tall physique. To Minguk's shock, his brother disappears before his eyes. He goes on to report to his boss that he's found the guy they were looking for. And funnily enough, they've discovered he's a high schooler. The boss was initially upset because of what happened, and their mission failed because Minguk's brother wasn't around to make sure they succeeded. So, to make sure they don't fail this time around, Section Chief Kim is assigned with an obvious job. A job that he's been meaning to do. Lo and behold, this is Park Di-hyun, the same guy who whacked his security team for losing a fight to our boy. Having taken control of the place, Ryujim returns all the money that Jin-il took from the students as part of the class tax. As for the humiliated so-called king, Jin-il is wondering if this dude is supported by the president to be acting so fearlessly. Basically, it means Ryujim is the new school's king. They all talk about how kind he is, despite his appearance. After class, Juno is impressed that, with his existence alone, he was able to return the school to a place of sanctity. Juno is happy to assist him with any inquiries about his school life from now on, but Ryujim sees Minguk just up ahead. He expresses that he'll find his answers from him instead. Minguk explains the process of sorting and wasting trash. Ryujim thinks it's a needless game. Meanwhile, the class president is questioning the identity of the mysterious transfer student, especially since his brother disappeared in a flash after that meeting. Minguk suspects that he may be trying to get close to him, but to his shock, Ryujim expresses that he's fine with learning the rest on his own. Also, he makes it sound like they're about to have a fight here and now. Minguk is on high alert, and the moment our boy grabs his shoulder, he's about to attack, but then he realizes that it's actually Dulu who came to catch up with him. She's also pretty suspicious of their secret conversations lately. Anyway, they explain how Minguk was teaching how to sort stuff. Dulu points out that it's funny how all three of them are special admission students. She thinks it's a good idea for the two of them to befriend each other, since they don't have anyone else to rely on. The scene cuts to Ryujim and Dulu sharing a chat with the company's boss. They were called on sudden notice to reveal a shocking opportunity. Bro looks at them with the face of utter dread, like he's about to die, and explains that they've been tasked with work. A junior that he knows is making her own web drama, and because it requires a student role, it fits Dulu perfectly. Unfortunately, the place is a bit far from here, so her manager is going to have to drive. But of course, our boy doesn't know how to. He's handed the keys, but he's got no idea how it works. The clueless Ryujim actually thinks they're going to ride the key, which is pretty hilarious. She tells her boss that he's an unordinary guy in their school, and that seems to be a bad thing apparently, because they haven't signed a proper contract to get him for the role of manager. Dulu recommends they depart right away, so their boss allows them access to his card, allowing them to take care of their expenses. But this girl, Dulu, is out here having the time of her life, ignoring her boss's warning of spending little. She reminds Ryujim that he can't say anything to her after eating 5 breads by himself. Switching topics, he points out that she's close with Minguk, which is true because they're both special admission students who have known each other since 1st grade. Special admission is supposed to be a term for students who struggled financially to get in. Though it's a privilege to enter the school, it promised them a hard life. The class president is a strong man, however, and he's influenced by his brother, who works in security. But Dulu is a little upset that he's asking about the other guy, and not her. Ryujim turns his face, acting like he's asleep, when in reality he's deeply focused on the word security. Arriving at the production site, Ryujim learns that Dulu doesn't want him to follow her around, because it will attract too much attention. Instead, she tells him to go and rest in the filming crew's bus. And that's what he does, sitting patiently and gathering his thoughts on the security people he fought back then. Which means Minguk definitely lied to him, and his brother, Daehan, is a suspicious figure, too. And guess what happens? The same group of suited men show up to meet him on the bus. Our boy is happy that he's going to get a chance to encounter Daehan today. Ryujim says that he's not going to hurt them, if they simply answer some of his questions. Starting with the first one, which is him asking about their main target. Since they're quiet on that, he asks a second question, asking about the man known as Park Dae-han. The one in charge of the team jumps right in to hit Ryujin. Though he throws a punch, his fist is casually grabbed without Ryujin even needing stand up. The guy just blocked the attack with ease, but that's exactly what his opponent was waiting for. He uses a lot of chi and unleashes a high-level attack in a small space. Even his underlings think that this will hurt Ryujin, as the security team's leader tries to throw another punch only to get knocked to the side of his face and seated, unconscious. Ryujin has equipped himself with a useful weapon, believing that it's better than his fist. The rest of the guys are out here taking off their jackets, like that's going to do something. The first one rushes to attack, while Ryujin notices that their chi energy shows itself in response to certain triggers. He's beating them up while also thinking, comparing them to Min-guk's situation. However, compared to the chi energy he experienced in the past, this one seems like a cheap copy without any worth. That's why he's easily destroying these chumps without getting tired. And with all of the men defeated, Bro casually sets them on their seats, making it seem like they were sleeping. Though he observed them to be weak in their qigong, the same isn't the case for the guy approaching the bus. Ryujin gets out of the bus to confront the man wearing a sleek, black suit. Dae-han is seriously unimpressed that his team was annihilated in under a minute. Ryujin directly confirms the identity of Park Dae-han. And get ready for the plot twist. Our boy himself reveals that he's an ancestor of their family. Hearing the word ancestor coming from his target's mouth, Dae-han can't help but let out a loud chuckle. He thinks it's a ridiculous answer, while our boy tells him that he actually knows about his little brother, Min-guk. That name alone causes Dae-han to whip a pipe across our boy's head, and only then does he ask about Ryujin's identity. Luckily, Ryujin caught the pipe and wonders if Dae-han's really that curious to find that out, since they both have the same goals here. Deciding to continue this fight in another location, they move to an isolated park. Getting comfortable, Dae-han is serious with how much chi he is releasing. Right now, he's looking for answers. But those answers will only come if, and only if, Ryujin is defeated. Since they're both curious, the winner takes all, and the loser will have to oblige. Dae-han is done being treated without respect and lunges to attack him. The attack connects and pushes Ryujin back considerably. Dae-han is rather impressed that his inhuman speed was countered against an enemy like this. So much so that he actually praises Ryujin's capability. But this fight isn't over just yet. As Dae-han meticulously uses the walls as a ramp to descend with a powerful aerial kick, Dae-han notices that his opponent is reading his movements like a book. So it causes him concern if he's truly up against a force of nature. Though his identity remains a mystery, Dae-han is smart enough to deem Ryujin's capabilities perhaps higher than even his own. Realizing that he's got no choice but to fully harness the powers of his qigong, he takes a stance that astonishes our boy. It's the Silent Tiger Fist, and this attack generates immense pressure, even after being blocked by Ryujin. Following up with a second lunge, Dae-han blitzes his opponent in his wrathful fury and attempts to land the third strike. Even though Ryujin dodges this attack, the pressure literally destroys a bunch of trees in the park. Going for the fourth sequence of the strike, he tries to overwhelm Ryujin with a definitive final strike. But to Dae-han's shock, his opponent is nowhere to be found. The Silent Tiger Fist is an attack that needs a key element to work. Ryujin shows that element: complete silence. He hides his presence like a quiet predator, ready to strike from a blind spot. He then criticizes Dae-han's poor handling of Chang. Ryujin says he could have defeated Dae-han instantly. Ryujin's first strike alone throws Dae-han back with such force that the earth cracks. It became clear that day their skills were far apart. Ryujin then reveals he didn't even use the full attack sequence. Next, Dulu is surprised to see they're getting a private ride home instead of a bus. The girl has no idea what she missed. The next morning, our boy slaps Dae-han to wake him up. They're back at the brothers' home, but Min-guk isn't around. Dae-han doesn't remember passing out, but as an honorable man, he's ready to share any information. Ryujin explains he's already confirmed several facts. First, Dae-han's body doesn't naturally have qigong. This made him wonder how Dae-han could use its power. Then, he found something in their house: pills. These pills look different from those used in the past, but they do the same thing. They plant qigong inside a person, explaining how both Park brothers have such power. Ryujin says that neither of them knows the most important thing about the pills. Dae-han gets angry and demands simple answers. Ryujin shocks him by saying they could both die. Daehan doesn't want to believe it and starts shouting in fear and anger. He doesn't understand Ryujum's plan until Ryujum gives him some advice. If he truly loves his little brother, he must stay away from those corrupt people. Suddenly, they both feel intense pressure coming from the door. It's a feeling unlike any other, causing Daehan to swell with fear. Reporters are waiting to interview the famous Yu Yenwu. Yenwu is interested to find Anhai there. She greets him politely, and he comments on how good she looks. Suddenly, everything stops as someone traps them in a barrier. He grabs her throat, asking how she's still alive. Anhai is in trouble, while Yenwu tells her to take off her blazer. Anhai is surprised that Yenwu noticed her healing even though she removed Ryujum's energy from her body. Yenwu looks at her cautiously. She wonders how it's possible he can see through her so easily. Figuring she has suffered enough, he decides to help her. Instead of worsening the infection, he heals her with his internal energy. Then, he tries to gain her trust, stating he never intended to discard her. But he's surprised by the horrified expression on her face. Yeah, well, that's because she's feeling intense pain inside. Yenwu lets out a manipulative smile. The reporters don't even know where the model disappeared to, thanks to the barrier he cast. Both of them leave the scene. Daehan processes the words he was left with. His condition will lead to his death, explaining how he's been feeling. He wonders if the organization intentionally hid this detail. Daehan also questions whether he should trust Ryujum. Min-guk returns from school and is greeted by his big brother. Daehan is still trying to hold on, doing what he can for his little brother's sake. While Min-guk brushes his teeth, he jokingly tells his brother not to look at his body like a pervert. Daehan shockingly tells him they won't use the pills anymore. The company is suspending the drugs and restricting them to organization members only for now. This news seems terrible to Min-guk, who wanted to use their power for an important evaluation. However, Daehan just can't take any more blind risks. Suddenly, Min-guk starts bleeding from his nose, signaling a horrific fate due to the pills. Daehan is worried and seriously angry at him for not taking care of his health. Min-guk doesn't understand his anger and wonders why he's losing his cool. After all, students get nosebleeds every now and then. The scene cuts to the CK Shields organization's boss, who is having dinner and enjoying a new look at their latest product. This formula is stronger than the last, allowing for greater results. For proper testing, they have highly skilled personnel around. And yet, that skilled personnel was utterly demolished by a guy on life support. This is the power of the Qi Gong pills. With that, their company value will skyrocket with more promise coming from their product. Also, this guy is Cha Join-il, the company's director. Daehan is also at this meeting, and he's stunned to see the results. The director's body seems to be recovering steadily, and their sales are continuing to see a steady incline. Sellers want more and more of these pills because the transformational effect is instant with one dose. It's the kind of product that will become popular in the medical field, and they call it the vitamin injection. For now, things are proceeding just as planned. The organization's boss calls for Daehan to catch a report of the guy he was sent to target. Poor Daehan only recalls being demolished as the outcome of that fight and goes all quiet. But since he can't say that to save his own life, Daehan expresses that he took care of the guy in private. At least this excuse will buy him some time. The boss tells him to go back to his position. The scene transitions to his little brother, Min-guk, starting to get annoyed seeing Ryujum tail him around all day. But our boy is pretty clever and chalks it off as a mere coincidence and nothing more. In reality, he's been keeping an eye on Min-guk, but lately hasn't noticed any traces of Qi so far. Ryujum's attention is focused outside when he sees Jin-il beating the crap out of Juno again. He's punishing the little kid for what Ryujum did to him. Juno is tossed to the ground and reminded of the reality he's always going to be a part of. His goons are staring down their boss kicking Juno to the ground until Dulu comes along, stopping them shitless because they thought it was actually Ryujum. Turning to meet her gaze, Jin-il walks up to her ready to slap her in the face. And well, that's basically the biggest mistake of his life because it causes Ryujum to sweep right in and stop him. The dude is so afraid of our boy that he leaves without looking back. Ryujum tells Dulu that she was too reckless just now, and he also can't tell why she's constantly a victim of bad luck and dangerous things. Also, he's finding himself with a shift in priorities after discovering the pills. More important things take precedence now, so he won't be able to pay attention to her or guard her like he used to. But Ryujum also fears the possibility that something bad might happen in his absence. That's why he misses his old colleagues the most, who he could trust with his life. Dulu warns Juno to be more careful from now on, as Jin-Il and his underlings will take any opportunity to humiliate him. As they're going away, Ryujin reaches an enlightenment. He could perhaps humiliate Jin-Il forever, rendering him broken beyond repair. And because of that, he tasks Juno to beat up Jin-Il all on his own, which is basically like saying, go and beat Superman. Ryujin stands firm on his ground and believes that this is the right way. And since he doesn't have colleagues in this era, he's willing to share his power with the person he trusts to make a new. That's all for today. For the next part, make sure to subscribe my channel Fire Recap. And you don't forget to share and like the video. I am out.